Hi there, my name is Niki Leach, and I am one of the hosts of the morning show Waking Up with Everyday Connection. What you are about to hear is an excerpt from a series of features we are offering through the show called Fibro Fridays. Today's piece is an introduction into my own personal journey from the devastating and debilitating disease of fibromyalgia back to complete health and well-being. They say it can't be cured. I say it can, and I'm going to share with you through this series of videos how I managed to go from praying for death daily to loving living.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2. Friday. Was it 21st? Yay.
Yes, it's the 21st of the love month,
Love month.
is fitting because for this feature we're going to talk about a little bit of love.
Talk about a little bit of love. Wait, Fibro Friday. That's a disease, and we're going to talk about love.
Absolutely.
How cool is that?
Absolutely. And I'll even explain how we're going to get there.
Wow, directions. I like it.
Directions. It's fun.
This is the do-it-yourself segment. Oh.
This is the do-it-yourself segment. Absolutely. This is your biggest do-it-yourself segment that you're ever going to get, and we're going to do a series of them. So stick with me, folks. But before we get started on the solution, I suppose we should probably talk a little bit about how that all came about. So I'm going to give you a bit of a background so that you understand that the things that I'm going to be sharing in the upcoming weeks are valid. This is a personal experience. I have gone through this myself. Yeah, personal journey. I have gone through it myself. I've even written a book on it, and we'll have the link to that book up. It's very cheap, 99 cents in the raw, unedited version. It's available to you as an ebook. You can get it right now today and start your journey back to wellness. So we're going to start with how'd that all happen. And I'm not even sure how many years ago it was. What's this time thing? Anyways, right? But about 10, 11 years ago, my daughter's 16, she was about 10 at the time. So about 10 or 11 years ago, both of my parents passed away. A day and a half apart. And I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not telling you this because I want you to feel sorry for me. I'm telling you this because it ties into my reasons for taking this journey in the manner that I've taken it. Both of my parents had those horrible things that we call diseases. My dad had kidney and liver disease due to years of abuse of alcohol. Good man, few bad habits. It's okay. My mom, on the other hand, had fibromyalgia, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. She'd had a car accident when I was about 10 that had broken the left side of her body. So her life really was medication. And sure enough, those medications caught up to her, and her heart, lungs, organs all failed in her 55th year, which is actually she passed away a day and a half after my dad passed away. Both natural causes, both different cities. This apparently was very shocking to everybody. And as much as I wanted to get back on my feet and get my life started again, I guess I took it a little to the extreme and ignored a lot of the warning signs around not paying attention to the emotions, not embracing the emotions, not accepting the emotions, not working through the emotions. So I went on my merry way and spent a lot of time crying, but I also spent a lot of time fighting to get back into life. Went back to school, changed everything about what I was doing because I needed to start over. I needed something fresh, something new. Went back to school to become a mechanic. And about halfway through the year, actually it started at the beginning of the year that I was in pain often. And the pain was getting worse and worse and worse. And my body was getting locked up and tight. And there were days when I could hardly, get out of bed, let alone get to school. It eventually got to the point where I was in so much pain. A lot of the times the guys were finding really neat ways to help me fix cars without having to stand or bend. So they would rig up tools that I could use. I had the greatest classmates. Rig up tools that I could use from sitting on a wheelchair, which was awesome. You know, they would carry my books. I was the only girl in the class, and oh my goodness, did I have an amazing group of older brothers.
Because humans are awesome.
I really did.
No, they are.
I did. Humans are awesome. Humans are awesome. So, but eventually it got to the point where the pain was just too much. And I had been going to my doctor, telling him about this pain and working through this pain with him. Unfortunately, he thought at the time that it was a physical manifestation of my emotional state with regards to my parents passing away. His solution, therefore, was to give me antidepressants. Sadly, I took the antidepressants for 6 months. But my body, instead of getting better, continued to get worse. So I continued to go to school for mechanics. I even got a job at a local garage. But no matter how hard I pushed, the pain was still there, and I wasn't imagining it. It wasn't something that I was making up. Finally, my doctor decided, all right, the antidepressants after 6 months should be working. I'm going to run some tests. Next thing I know, after having an x-ray, I'm getting a phone call. I need to be in a neighboring city in the next day for an MRI on my spine. Now, they tell you that you have to be there the next day. They just took the x-ray yesterday, and tomorrow you have to be in the city for an MRI. There's something wrong.
Yeah, and they usually don't tell you much about what's wrong or anything. They just, oh my God, you got to have this thing, and you got to do it right now.
Got to do it right now. So here I am. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I'm starting a new career. I've just dealt with my parents passing away. I'm trying to put my life together, and now all of a sudden my doctor calls me with, we've discovered what looks like a bulge on your spine. We need you to take this MRI, and we need you to take it now. How soon can you get there? Okay. 24 hours of, what does a bulge mean? Is that cancer? Is it a growth? The things that my mind contrived is just unbelievable. But ultimately what happened is that I had, in the process of moving some of my parents' furniture, and I even know, looking back now, when I did it, it involved a refrigerator. What I had done was I had actually fractured my spine.
Major appliances.
And
big heavy thing.
You're right. I'm 5'0". What was I doing moving a fridge? That's a whole question for another day. But I had actually fractured my spine, but because they didn't find the fracture, it had healed. And in the healing of it, it had created herniations in the disc above and below the fracture, and successfully managed to lock up every single muscle in my body from my toes to my neck. So as my muscles were trying to support my body and allow this fracture to heal, they tensed up. And because they maintained that tense state for a long period of time, they ultimately ended up locking up into that state. So now I had a fracture that was healed wrong, 2 herniated discs, and these muscles that they couldn't figure out how to release. So then began the medications and the
muscle
specialists
relaxants and
things. They had me on. Okay, they had me on perks. And the pain medications would switch up because they didn't want me to get addicted. So they would switch them up. It was perks, there was Dilaudid, there was, standard morphine. It was just ridiculous. And then, of course, there was the NSAIDs. They were still pumping antidepressants into me. There was the anti-inflammatories. I think the list of medications is longer than my arm. And I was terrified. I'm looking at my little girl and I'm thinking, no, because I had just buried my mom. And when we had cleaned out my mother's medicine cabinet, we literally filled 2 white plastic kitchen bags of prescription medications. And it was in that moment that I said to myself, I can't do this. I can't do this to my daughter. I won't do this to my daughter and I won't do it to myself. So I pushed for a solution. And I saw so many specialists. I had one neurosurgeon tell me we can't do anything. There's so much nerve damage. My left arm was numb by this time. I could still use it, but I would drop things. And there was no outward physical evidence that anything was going on. So my family, some of them didn't understand. My friends were confused.
You look fine. You look fine over there.
You look great.
Okay,
What's
good.
wrong with you? So, I saw this neurosurgeon who told me there's nothing we can do for you. We can't operate. The herniation is too close to your spine. There's the potential of hurting the spinal cord itself, and then you're going to be in a wheelchair for sure. There's nothing really we can do other than physiotherapy and pain management. And that wasn't acceptable to me because here's this man telling me, this expert, telling me that I was essentially going to be in a wheelchair within 5 years. So by the time I was 30, I was going to be in a wheelchair. That was going to be my life. But then my doctor introduced me to this amazing specialist who was experimenting with Botox with regards to treating some of these disorders, these problems, these neuromuscular issues. And the neuromuscular issue had developed, granted, because my body was trying to protect my spine. But I still had to deal with not only the spinal problem with the herniations and the wonky healing job that my spine had done, but I also had this muscle problem that needed to be dealt with immediately if I wanted to get my life back. So she decided to try an experimental treatment on me, which I had to pay for out of pocket, but was well worth it. And I know in Canada, yes, our drugs and medications are supposed to be paid for, but physiotherapy is not covered. So I have to point that out. And at the time I was divorced and single mom. I obviously couldn't work. A lot of my money had gone to get me back to school. So I didn't have an income because I obviously couldn't wrench, even though I had been at one of the top 2 in my class. I had been nominated valedictorian. I had to drop out. My life was all about pain. And there were a lot of times where I would be lying on the bathroom floor just bawling my eyes out because in 1 year I'd lost my marriage, I'd lost my parents, I'd lost my hopes of a better future, I'd lost my health. And I was freaking determined that I wasn't going to lose my life, but there was a part of me that was telling me that would be easier. When you get up and you're in pain and you go to bed and you're in pain, your entire life is pain and suffering and sorrow and anger and angst. It's so much easier just to say, screw this, I'm out. But this little voice kept saying, Mom, I'm over here waiting for you to get better. So I met this woman, and she was an elderly Chinese doctor who should have retired. I think she was in her 70s when I met her. She was still practicing a private practice. And she came up with this really out-of-the-box solution. 2 sessions, 24 separate 4 to 5 inch long needles in the deep muscle tissue of my back with Botox. And the idea is that if we could get the muscles to release, which is ultimately what Botox does and why it helps your face to look younger, if we could get the muscles to release in the body,
muscles. So they're relaxed.
The body could heal. The body could heal. But it's what she said to me that started me on the journey to wellness. More than anything she ever did, the needles, everything that worked. And let me tell you, that was not an easy session to go through. The needles hurt like hell. The treatment, followed the treatment. It was like 5 days of intense pain as the muscles adapted and relaxed and my body went, ah! But it's what she said to me that changed the way that I looked at my healing journey. And she asked me, the first time she met me, the only question she had for me, do you want to get well? And I looked at her and I said, more than anything else, that's what I want to do. I want to get well. And she looked at me, she smiled, she shrugged her little old shoulders and she said, oh, okay then, you will. Let's do this. Holy crap. So it's been 10 years. And the
A
journey
decade.
continues because she did manage to get the muscles to relax at that time. But in the years following, I have had other accidents. I was rear-ended by another car, which put me back into a state. I had a fall, which put my body back into that state, and they couldn't figure out why my body was reacting the way it was. And it turns out that 5 years ago, after my doctor had worked with me for 5 years, I had a new doctor. I was living in a new city. And now this new doctor, who also happened to be Chinese, discovered that not only did I have the herniated discs, the fracture, and all that stuff, but he also diagnosed fibromyalgia. So on top of everything else, now I had this disease, this scary, horrible disease that causes pain for no reason,
Diagnosis.
or so they say. There is a reason, and we're going to get to that through this series, that causes pain for no reason, that people can't see, that they can't possibly fathom or understand. It causes weirdness to go on in your body. Some days your skin will tingle for no reason. Your hands might not work. It affects your memory. You have sensitive pressure spots. During a fibro flare-up, you can get so bad that somebody could literally brush your skin and it feels like somebody's just punched you. The pain's so intense. You can't bear a hug from somebody. That's simply too much pressure on your body. Essentially, your pain sensors have gone completely wacko, and you are convinced, having this disease, that your body hates you. And what a thing to live with. What a horrific way to live, to be at war constantly with your own body. And that's what many people with these diseases, fibro, MS, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, Parkinson's, that's what many of these people believe is going on. Their daily existence is they are at war with their body. So today we're going to talk about, for the next 4 minutes, how I discovered that I could make friends with my body, and that in the act of making friends with my body, I could not only cure my back, but I could get rid of this disease, this incurable thing we don't understand called fibromyalgia. And it came in the shape of one of our guests, who brought to my attention a very simple fact, that while I was spending the last 10 years of my life saying my body's not working properly, my body had actually been doing everything it's supposed to do. It was working properly. In fact, it was working more so efficiently that it's me not paying attention to its efficiency that caused this miscommunication and essentially my own suffering. Because fibromyalgia, so I have discovered in the last 2 to 3 years of experimentation on holistic healing and everything that I've researched, it seems that they have finally discovered that fibromyalgia is nothing more than the body's natural reaction to toxicity within the system. And your body is designed, essentially it's designed to alert you when something's wrong. And it will start out by alerting you with little things. But if you're not listening, eventually it's going to start screaming.
If you don't do anything about it, don't worry.
If you don't do anything about it, it'll get bigger. And essentially what's happening is, in these patients who have fibromyalgia and a lot of these other diseases, state of dis-ease, is your body is in a state of disease. And why is it in a state of disease? It is in a state of disease because it is being inundated with toxins, be it from environmental sources, from the foods you eat, the things you drink, or the emotional state of being that you happen to be living in. And all these things can contribute to a complete system crash. But here's the beautiful part. That means that your body is working perfectly. So it's okay right now today, no matter how much pain you're in, no matter how much you're suffering, no matter how much you've been at war with your body for how many years, it's okay today for you to say, my body does work. And it's okay for you to have appreciation for the efficiency with which your body has been trying to alert you to the danger that you're in. It's okay, essentially, to love what your body is trying to do for you. And when you do that, when you get there, and that is where I recommend starting, and I'm going to walk you through the process in the next several weeks of how to do this. When you get there, then you too will get your life back. Because I start my day every day with getting out of bed, and I grab a glass of water, throw my dog out the door, I get on my elliptical, I do 10 to 20 minutes of cardio exercise. 3 times a week, I lift weights and do personal training. I'm able to take care of my house, take care of my kids, be a mom, be an author, be a radio show host. I'm able to go out and do the things that I want to do, like go to choirs, vocal lessons, play with friends. And the best part about it, the only medication I take occasionally for pain management is an over-the-counter, very low-dose combination of Tylenol with codeine. And the only reason I take the codeine with the Tylenol is because my body is so used to all the heavy pain-killing drugs that they gave me years back that regular Advil just isn't going to cut it. But I'm not on any prescription medications. And my life of pain, although it's a vivid memory, is a memory. And you too can have that be your reality.
It's choice. Once again.
Absolutely. Do you want to get well? That's all she asked me.
And you said yes, and she just shrugged her shoulders and said, okay.
All right,
So
let's
be it.
go.
Here we go.